अय्युहल्लज़ीना आमनू सल्लु अलैहि वसल्लिमू तस्लीमा। अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर। अश्हदु अन ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, अश्हदु अन ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, अश्हदु अन्ना मुहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, अश्हदु अन्ना मुहम्मद रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, अश्हदु अन्ना अमीरुल मोमिनीन व इमामुल मुत्तकीन अलियन वलियुल्लाह, अश्हदु अन्ना अमीरुल मोमिनीन व इमामुल मुत्तकीन अलियन हुज्जतुल्लाह। हय्या अलस्सलाम, हय्या अलस्सलाम, हय्या अलल फलाह, हय्या अलल फलाह, हय्या अला खैरिल अमल, हय्या अला खैरिल अमल। अल्लाहु अकबर, अल्लाहु अकबर, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह, ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह। अल्लाहुम्मा अजल क़ल्बी बारों बिसारों रसीदारों वला दिबरारों वजल्ली नक़ब नबी का मुहम्मदन मुस्तक़रम वक़रार बरहमतिक या रहमर रहीमीन। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद।
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي كان موجودا قبل حدوث الأشياء ويبقى بعد فناء الأشياء، تفرد بالأولية والقدم ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم، كما قال عز شأن كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت، وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات، سبحان الله الذي منه خلقة العباد وإليه المعاد. فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يره ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يره. نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه، يعظم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء، تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفو تفضل. ونشهد أن محمدا سيد المرسلين وخير المبشرين والمنذرين، صلى الله عليه وآله الهداة المهديين، من ركب سفينتهم نجا واهتدى ومن تخلف عنها ضل فغرقه. وهوى أوصيكم عباد الله بالاعتصام بالتقوى فإنه حبل متين وعروة وثقى. فقال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وقولهم إنا قتلنا المسيح عيسى ابن مريم رسول الله وما قتلوه وما صلبوه ولكن شبه له إن الذين اختلفوا فيه لفي شك منه ما لهم به من علم إلا اتباع الظن وما قتلوه يقينا بل رفعه الله إليه وكان الله عزيزا حكيما. صدق الله العلي العظيم. الله محمد Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I begin by advising myself and all of you to adopt the taqwa of Allah, as is the best of provisions. The verse that I recited is from Surah Nisa, chapter 4, ayat number 157, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directs our attention towards a phenomena which is more commonly known in the Christian world, and today being Good Friday, and the purpose behind this being called Good Friday. We find that this year, this Good Friday, which falls on this day of April in 2021, in different traditions, the date is also known as Holy Friday, Great Friday, or Easter Friday. Good Friday is commemorated because the date marks the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, salamullah alayhi, and his death at Calvary. Accounts of the gospel state that it was this day, according to them, Son of God was betrayed by Judas before he was sentenced to death. The date falls during Holy Week of the Friday before Easter Sunday, which will be this Sunday, and sometimes coincides with the Jewish celebration of Passover, which also ends on this April 4th, this Sunday. And Passover is an important event and biblically derived Jewish holiday where Jews celebrate Passover as commemoration of their liberation by God from slavery in an ancient Egypt and their freedom as a nation under the leadership of Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam. And according to the standard biblical chronology, this event would have taken place about 1300 years before Christ. So going back to the verse that I recited, this was just the history behind it. And go back to the verse that I recited and chose is from Surah Nisa, verse number 157. According to Muslim beliefs, based on the verse, and I'll do the translation, and for their saying, we killed the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary, the apostle of Allah. Though they did not kill him, nor did they crucify him, but so it was made to appear to them. That's what the illusion was. Indeed, those who differ concerning him are surely in doubt about him. They do not have any knowledge of what, that beyond following conjectures and certainty, they did not kill him. So twice in this ayat, Quran is telling us that he was not killed. He was not crucified. Indeed, Allah raised him up. What really happened to him? Well, if he wasn't killed, then what happened? Bal rafa'ahu Allahu ilayhi. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him toward himself, and Allah is almighty and all-wise. So those, you have a lot of Christian counterparts, friends, colleagues, and not for the sake of debate or jadal for that matter, just for the sake of having an understanding as to what they celebrate, what they commemorate, why is it important for them. This is the Islamic perspective of it. So according to our beliefs, this verse, that Jesus, son of Mary, was never crucified, nor was he killed. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him, and he will return back to the earth one day. So with that said, we find that there are 2 days which we find in the predominant Christian societies that we live in. One marks the birth of Jesus Christ, another marks the crucifixion, according to them, of Jesus Christ. 25th of December marks the birth, and this Good Friday marks the wafat, according to them, or the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Also, for example, we have in our customs and in our culture, in Islamic culture, we enjoy holidays as well, in this country that we live in, where it also, these holidays come in and we are part of it. Even if we are celebrating or not celebrating, we're in the mode of celebration or not celebration, but nonetheless, you get a day off from work. And whether it's Christmas, whether it's other holidays, you get a day off from it. This is what is called Good Friday. What makes this Friday good? That's the first question I want to address. Friday is always good, right? If you ask a Muslim, Friday is always good. Friday is the best day of the week. And Friday is Sayyidut, Ayyam. It is the master of all of the days, is the leader of all the days. And there's so many other significant aspects that are associated with Friday. Every week, if there is an Eid, it's Friday for you. So why are they considering this to be Good Friday? How can something be good when your leader was killed on that day? Right? So let's focus on ours. Imam Hussain was martyred on 10th of Muharram. We don't celebrate it. We commemorate, and they know how we commemorate it. There's mourning, there's weeping, there's crying, there's all that somber and whatnot associated with that day. Or 21st of Ramadan, when we commemorate the Shahadat of Amirul Mu'mineen. Or other days of the martyrdom of Masumeen. Or Wafat of Rasulullah, which, for example, comes in the month of Safar. So why is it called Good Friday? What's the reason behind that? In the Christian world, they call this to be Good Friday. They say because Jesus died for their sins on this day. So that's why it's good for them. Because he sacrificed himself, he was crucified. The return of that sacrifice was good for us as his followers. So when he died for our sins, and we are all forgiven. So the day when you're forgiven, you consider that day to be a day of atonement, the day of, consider to be a day of liberation, the day which is good for you. And that is the reason why it is called Good Friday. Unfortunately, the spiritual aspect of these commemoration is missing when all people care about is the big sales driven by the materialist and the capitalist society. Therefore, we urge people to keep the spiritual aspect alive in observing these events, even if there might be differences of opinion when it comes to the actual date of someone passing away or someone dying. Just briefly looking into the tafsir of this ayat of Surah Nisa, the elements and signs of resemblance which Allah mentions over here, that وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ بَلْ شُبَّهَ. He was not killed, nor was he crucified. Rather, it appeared to them that he was killed or he was crucified. The resemblance and the another person being crucified instead of Prophet Jesus is like this. Number one, the people who were apprehended were Romans, and they were strangers to that place. They didn't recognize Jesus. They didn't have first knowledge of who Jesus was, how did he look like. Most probably the person who betrayed and took money by giving up Prophet Jesus was also apprehended himself. Prophet was arrested at night, and the person who was arrested complained to Allah about his current situation. But that is against the concept of nubuwwat. A Nabi of Allah does not complain. He's radhi bi qadarin wa qada, the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If this is supposed to happen to him, he will be in agreement. So the fact that this person is complaining, why is this happening to me? This is against the concept that this was a Nabi. All the different Bibles that came into existence were written many years after the demise of Hazrat Isa, or him being raised, for example, not getting killed or dying. Rather, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rafa'ahu, this ayat itself answers what happened to him. Bal rafa'ahu Allahu ilayh. Allah raised him up. That means he's still alive. And there are many Christians. This is probably the biggest proof of this. There are many Christians today who do not accept this theory either. They do not believe in the crucifixion of Jesus Christ either. And there are many contradictions in this regard in many versions of Bible that we have. Messages that we can derive from this, whether or not the story is true or not, Quran is narrating it, is like this. That these people say, we have killed Masih ibn Maryam. We have killed Masih ibn Maryam. What are the messages that we can derive from it? Number one, the decline of human race. is at its peak when they take pride in killing a prophet. Remember, this was a habit of Bani Israel as well, of killing the prophets and then taking pride in it. So that is what the lowest point of human race. When you have false accounts of such an important personality, the rebuttal has to be in the strongest of the words. That's why Quran said, "Ma qataluhu wa ma salabuhu." No ambiguity whatsoever. He was not killed and he was not crucified. Prophet Jesus' coming and leaving in this world were both unnatural. He came in this world, there was not anything unnatural about it. He was born without a father. And then he left this world, which is also not natural, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised him back up. So making him to be a very important personality. Also, the next part of the khutbah that I wanted to talk about, this was because it was the event today being Good Friday and all of the history behind it and our Muslim Islamic perspective about this Good Friday. I thought it would be worth sharing with our audiences and our kids. Second is the beginning of this holy month of Ramadan, which is upon us. Inshallah, next Friday, I will talk about that khutbah of our Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which Prophet spoke on the last Friday of the month of Sha'ban. I have traditionally spoken about that pretty much every year, but there's so much new in it that every time you read it, you find it refreshing. But today, what I'll very briefly discuss is the recommendations by our eighth Imam, Imam Ali ibn Musa Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. This person by the name Abdul Salam ibn Salih al-Harawi, he said, "Dakhaltu ala Abil Hasan Ali ibn Musa Allah." He said, I entered upon our eighth Imam in the end of the month of Sha'ban. فَقَالَ لِي يَا أَبَا الصَّلْتِ. Imam told me, "Oh, father of salt, إِنَّ شَعْبَانَ قَدْ مَضَى أَكْثَرُهُ وَهَذَا آخِرُ جُمْعَةٍ مِّنْهُ فَتَدَارَكْ فِي مَا بَقِيَ مِنْهُ تَقْصِيرَكْ فِي مَا مَضَى مِنْهُ." He said, I came upon Imam. It was the last few days of the month of Sha'ban. Imam gave me this instruction. He said, "Oh, Abu Salt, indeed, majority of Sha'ban has passed, right? Only a few days have remained of the month of Sha'ban. Aktharuhu has passed. And therefore, fatadarik fima baqiya minhu." Indeed, majority of the Sha'ban have passed. He said, make up what you have missed as far as your shortcomings are concerned. If there are any lapses and shortcomings, use this opportunity to make up. You should welcome which matters to you as far as good and refrain, which is lahv. Increase your dua and forgiveness and recitation of Quran. There's a tradition that I have shared with you before as well, which is from our Prophet Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which I want to bring in today as well because there's a relationship with it. In one of the traditions, this is again agreed upon both Shias and Sunnis. Prophet of Islam said, take advantage of 5 things before 5. اغتنم خمسا قبل خمسٍ. And this was kalam to one of his companions by the name Abu Dhar. Number 1, he said, your youth before your old age. Shababaka qabla haramek. Shabab, your youth before you become old. Your health before your illness. Sihhataka qabla suqmek. Your riches before your poverty. Ghinaka qabla faqrik. Your free time before your work. Your ishtighal, you're becoming busy. Before that, you should make sure that you utilize the free time that you have in your hands. And lastly, your life before your death. Hayataka qabla mautik. This is in the books of Ahl Sunnah. Al-Hakim and Nishapuri narrates this hadith. And of course, through our narrations as well, in the books of Shia, this has been mentioned. Which of these blessings that Prophet talked about in this hadith we will waste this Ramadan? That's the question. 5 things I mentioned. He said, take 5, make sure you use them before you lose them. I'll remind these 5 because it's difficult to retain all this in a very short span of time. So your youth before you get old, your health before you get sick, your wealth and riches before you get poor, your free time before you get occupied, and your life before death comes upon you. You see how each one of them are related to one another. And they're always zawal in them. That means what? There's always expiration in the first part. You're not going to remain shabab and youth all the time. Eventually it'll pass by. You're not going to remain healthy all the time. Eventually some illness might strike you. Even if a person was so protective all this pandemic, one mistake here and there, and boom, you're COVID-19 positive. And or other illnesses. Because when you can get sick just by a virus moving around in the air, in the atmosphere, then just how can you safeguard yourself? So that's number 2. But eventually, when you're healthy, you got to make sure that you're not going to remain healthy forever. We make dua, but you're not going to remain healthy forever. So do something while you have riches. You're not going to remain rich all the time. Eventually, the wealth that you've accumulated will pass away, will be spent, will be utilized, will be given. And there's only so much that you can use for yourself. And last 2, your free time before you get occupied. And lastly, your life, because you're not going to stay here forever. Nobody has drank what is called Abe Hayat, that you are not going to die and you're going to remain forever. No, that's not going to happen. So which one of these will we waste this Ramadan? Is it the food? Is it the riches? Is it the time? Is it the health? Or all of the above? Are we going to waste all of them? There's a study that is done by a non-profit group that raises environmental awareness in Middle East. It says about 1/5 of the food purchased or prepared during Ramadan ends up in the waste. 1/5. Unfortunately, the data suggests the amount of food waste is even slightly higher during the holy month. So when you go into the Shia world, in the months of Muharram and Safar, I think this study will skyrocket. Same thing in the United States. People spend 2 hours and 3 minutes on social media each day. All right, think about it for a second. All of us are part of it. First portion was food, which is sometimes intangible. We don't feel about it. Oh, we lost so much food. Oh, I did not know. We were losing that much food on a daily basis. I had no idea. But every single one of us, or at least what is the range and the average is, that every single person spends 2 hours and 3 minutes on social media each day. That's the time taken away from doing far more productive activities, even outside of the month of Ramadan. So these are the questions that are very pressing. I don't want to depress you with all these other graphics that I have. Inshallah, I'll keep them for another time, maybe for next week, when we are closer, a little bit closer to the month of Ramadan. But when you have this opportunity in front of you, where forget about the free time, your sleep matters, and it's considered to be ibadat. Your breathing matters, it's considered to be a tasbih and the glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we are how negligent we are that we waste all of these other things, which Prophet is highlighting. I want to conclude with this tradition which says, وَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ فِيهِ بِالصَّلَاةٍ كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَهُ بَرَاءَةً مِنَ النَّارِ. This is during the month of Ramadan. Whoever performs a recommended prayer in the month of Allah will keep the fire of hell away from him. And whoever performs an obligatory prayer, Allah will reward him with the 70 prayers in this month. This could be an eye-opener that just an act of wajib, which is already wajib upon us, how it is multiplied. An act of mustahab, istihbab, recommended act, that's how is it elevated. Repent from Allah for your sins so that the month of Allah accepts you. This is still during the month of Sha'ban, and you're sincere towards Him. I give this example all the time, so forgive me for repeating that. How can you enter in the month of Ramadan, which is so pure and clean, with a vessel which is dirty and polluted? And so if you give me a cup, you go outside, you buy a drink, they give you an empty cup, and so you can take the drink from, over their fountain. You take the cup and you see, oh, there's some dirt in it. Do you take the drink in it, or you go back and get another one? You go back and say, well, this is dirty. I'm not going to drink in it. Give me another cup. They give you another cup because cup doesn't really cost that much. And they'll give you another cup. You bring it, you look into it, it's clean, and then you go ahead and pour your drink into it. Why didn't you pour drink into that dirty cup? Well, God knows what could be in there. Just the fact that I saw a few drops of something dirty, I don't want to drink something which is already dirty. The vessel was polluted. You didn't want to pour pure water into it. Why? Because the pure water will be affected by the pollution and the dirt that was settling inside that cup. Similarly, our hearts, our vessels, they should not be polluted prior to entering this month of Ramadan. So this is the importance. While we have roughly about 10 days left before the beginning of the month, there will be another Friday where I will do more of this awareness for myself first. So don't think that I'm above and all superior to all of you and this does not apply to me. No, I myself have to work on it. Because how many of us know that we will get to see another Ramadan? All those people who were with us last year, I can count 10 people on my hand that I led the janazah for in this past year. They were with us. How many of us know that we will get to live to see another month of Ramadan? How many of us know, inshallah, everybody else, that we will receive this month of Ramadan? There's still 10 days remaining, right? Is there any guarantee of life and death? The Prophet is saying, اغتنم خمسا قبل خمسا. And last one that Prophet said, حياتك قبل موتك. Make sure that you take advantage of this life that has been given to you before death comes upon you. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the tawfiq and ability to prepare ourselves better for this holy month of Ramadan, which is upon us. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we get to see not just this month of Ramadan, but many, many months of Ramadan to come in future as well. And also that our du'as are accepted and our amal are accepted. In Hasan Hadith, وَأَبْلَغَ الْمَوْعِظَةَ كِتَابُ اللَّهِ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ بِسْمِ اللَّهِ الرَّحْمَنِ الرَّحِيمِ وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا إله إلا هو العلي الكريم غافر الذنب وقابل التوب وهو الغفور الرحيم سبحان من سبق رحمته وغضبه وبسط اليدين بالرحمة سبحان من لم يكلف نفسا إلا دون وسعها وفعل السيئات ولم يجاز بها سبحان من لا يزداد على معاصي العباد إلا كرما وجودا ولا كثرة الذنوب إلا عفوا وصفا نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو لطوف للعباد بجوده ولفظ المذنبين بحلمه ونشهد أن محمدا نبيه وحبيبه سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين بعثه رحمة للعالمين ألا قد أمركم الله في محكم كتابه بالصلاة على نبيه وحبيبه فقال تعليما لكم وتشريفا لسفينا الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيد المرسلين وشفيع المذنبين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبدة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله وعلى الحسن المجتبى والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان. ما هي آثار البدع والطغيان هذه أمنية الشرك والنفاق حاسد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى عباده الكرام ما اتصلت الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجا وسهل مخرجا واكحل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه وجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمراء المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أهله ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أهل بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. اللهم اجعلنا ممن يذكر فتنفعه الذكرى. ان الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون.